Most music producers are not approaching their strings the right way. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to layer strings so that they sound incredible. Because the truth is that if you want to have amazing sounding strings, you need to layer them. I'm not going to be doing this hypothetically. I'm going to be opening up a real session here that was actually a song of mine that was recently on the show Love is Blind. It's also been licensed hundreds of times. It's my most profitable song. And guess what? There's tons of strings in it. There's a lot of lessons to learn. So let's dig in. So first things first, let's take a little listen to what we've got here and then we'll break it down.
The story is just
This is a song that I collaborated and co-released with the artist Moonwater. It's called The Story's Just Begun. If you want to go listen to the whole thing, I'll leave a link for Spotify down below. But what I want to do is mute out these vocals, and we're going to just listen to the instrumental at this very last chorus here and break down what's going on. Now, this right here would be all of our strings. And as you can see, there's a lot. We're going to be breaking down exactly what's going on here and why it matters so much and how if we don't approach it this way, it's going to sound really weak in comparison. But let's just play the instrumental with no vocals. Okay, awesome. So if we only listen to what's going on in the strings without anything else, this is what we got. Now, what I want you to think about right now, just when you hear that, think about what are the elements that you're even hearing. Obviously, you can see a lot of stuff here, but if you actually think about everything that's going on, we've got that main melody, da, 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 and the upper strings, and you might not even realize it, but that exact same melody is also happening down below in the cellos as well. We're going to see the layering that's actually taking place here in a second. And then finally, the middle, the interior of what the strings are doing is staccatos. It's actually doing this right here. Which this is creating the rhythmic drive to the whole thing. This is what we've got going on the middle, but here's what's going on the top. But that exact same melody is also happening down here in the cellos. When we're talking about layers, it's not just how many tracks do we have. It's not just how many different things of that one sound do we have with different libraries. It's also what's the arrangement doing? How are the individual parts of the arrangement actually working together to create something interesting? If we only had this upper melody way up high, it's lacking some of the depth that that same melody could then have on the bottom. So when we're talking about the right way to go about layering, it's not just how many sound libraries you're using. It's not just how many tracks can you stuff in here, but it's what are those sounds actually doing within the context of the track. So if we think about this song right here, this moment, that melody is the most important thing in this song. Da, 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 da. It's the most important melody we have so far, at least in this moment. And we need to make sure that that melody actually stands out. So listen what happens if we remove those cellos and we don't have that at all. Let's put them in. This is just adding more energy in the bottom that beefs up that melody, that lets us know this is an important thing going on. Okay, now let's actually talk about the individual layers that we have. One of the most important things you need to understand when we're talking about layering MIDI strings. These were MIDI strings. I just printed this down to audio because this song is several years old. When we're talking about individual string libraries, you need to understand what the pros and cons are for each individual library. So if we were to solo out any one of these tracks, let's just take the chamber strings here. This is the Spitfire chamber strings. When we listen to this, we need to start by thinking, what is the good stuff in this library? What things do we like? And then what things are maybe not as good? The very first thing is that the actual notes, when they move from one note to the next, sound really good. So in other words, this is a really good legato patch. But if we listen to anthology strings here, also sounds really good. The legato is a little bit more exaggerated whenever we have those leaps, but it also sounds a little bit bigger than this library. When I say bigger, I don't mean louder. I mean bigger as in the size of the orchestra is bigger. The chamber strings is a much smaller orchestra. But then we can listen to this example down here. Each of these has a little bit of a different tonal characteristic, so that when we put them together, they are working together to create a richer and more full sound. The last thing that I want to do as a music producer and as an artist is have someone listen to my song and say, oh, I bet you use the Native Instruments symphony strings on that. And the truth is that a lot of people are using the same tools. And so if you want to make sure that your songs stand out and don't just sound like every other person who's using strings, then you're going to need to combine different libraries together. And you're thinking through it not just as like, let me just slap a bunch of stuff together, but the way I'm thinking about it is, what is the tone of this particular library? What's the timbre? How big does it sound? What am I missing? What do I feel like I want more of? So actually, in this case here, one of the things that I wanted more of was bow noise. I want it to feel more lively and have some intimacy to it. Even though it's this huge scale, I wanted to still have some intimacy. And so the way that I accomplished that was by, number one, layering solo violins like this. So I'm using these solo strings with the staccatos. We'll blend those together with the ensemble as well. All right, so if we put all these staccatos together, so you can tell how much of a difference that makes, where the ensemble here, which is from the Anthology Strings by 8DO, if I'm using the ensembles, this sounds great, but it doesn't have that same attack. It doesn't have the same transient. It doesn't cut through quite as much as the solo strings. Now all of a sudden that sounds like no one's going to be able to know where did that come from, what library are you using. Instead, now people are asking, how'd you do that? It just sounds unique. And so what I'm thinking through is, and again here, solo viola as well. So we've got this beautiful melody on the bottom here, which is mirroring what the upper strings are doing as well. But what I'm doing is I'm layering different types of orchestras together because I want to bolster up what this sounds like. So if we just listen to the Native Instruments example here, this is the Native Instruments Symphony Series viola. It sounds okay, but it definitely, in my opinion, doesn't sound super realistic. But we layer that with this. Sounds better, but the moment we add the solo viola, it gives you some real feeling to it. It actually makes it grab you a little bit more. We do the same thing with the cello. All these are playing the exact same notes, which again is arrangement layering to help make sure that your ears are drawing attention to that thing. But that's not all there is here, because if that's all there was, it wouldn't actually sound quite the same. So what we have is these melodies going on, right, in the upper strings and lower strings. But then we also have these staccatos. Just this alone, there's so much texture to it because we're getting the shorts, but then we're also getting the melody. And this creates a lot more contrast within the arrangement itself. And you can notice how I'm leveraging individual layers, but then I'm also using arrangement layering to make this part feel a lot more interesting. But the last thing that I'm doing to make this even more interesting is filling in some of the interior using these sounds. And so what I'm using here are 3 different individual libraries. One of them is Chamber Evolution by Spitfire. It's one of my favorites. It gives you these really, really expressive chords that you can do. Sure, like these waves, Oliver Arnold's library, really good. And then I'm using these tremolos within the Arcus library. This is a Native Instruments one. And this is literally just a fifth. It's just like the same notes, it's holding out the entire time, but it's got this shimmering kind of glitter to it. And then the final one is these soltastos from Oliver Arnold's as well, the Chamber Evolutions, which is doing the same thing as those tremolos. So in a sense, we're using strings not only to do a melody and do these staccatos, but we're also using it to fill in the harmony with the waves, but then also using these uppers to almost function more like a glittery pad as well, which creates so much texture. Now, listen to what happens when we listen to these strings without those first and then put them in. Here we go. And when you put all of that in together, this starts to feel like a very interesting production. If you want help knowing how to write strings that don't sound like a pad like I'm doing here, then you should watch this video next.